Modern application deployment doesn't have to be complicated, and that's exactly what this video is about. Hello everyone, I'm Travis and welcome to my channel. This video is sponsored by Recast Software, and in it we take a look at application deployment with Recast Application Workspace. Application management is a direct driver of users' productivity and a critical part of a secure environment. And today's users aren't tied to a single device or platform. They move constantly, and they expect their applications and data to be available everywhere with the same experience every time. That expectation is difficult enough to meet on traditional physical desktops, but it gets significantly more complicated in VDI environments. IT teams are often managing a mix of persistent and non-persistent desktops, each with its own challenges, tools, and skill sets. Delivering applications consistently across physical and virtual desktops quickly becomes time-consuming and error-prone. In many VDI deployments, applications are baked directly into the image, but that approach comes with other problems. Images require constant maintenance, they fall out of date fast, and one small mistake can be multiplied across the entire environment. Add in remote and hybrid users jumping between managed Windows devices in the office and personal devices like Macs at home. Maintaining a consistent application experience becomes even harder. But that consistency is critical. Keeping applications current and delivering a predictable, reliable experience across every platform isn't just about convenience, it's essential for improving end-user productivity and protecting the security of the IT environment. That's where Recast Application Workspace comes in. Recast offers a simplified, centralized approach to application management. With Application Workspace, application delivery is unified across multiple endpoints, including VDI and AVD, remote applications, Windows devices, Macs, and other workspace types. In the demo coming up, you'll see how Recast Application Workspace integrates directly into an existing environment to deliver applications where and when users need them. The walkthrough will also cover how to create an application package. Recast provides multiple secure application repositories, including the Microsoft Store and Recast's own Setup Store. The Setup Store includes more than 8,000 multi-platform applications that are fully managed by Recast, no custom packaging required. Application Workspace can also simplify custom application packaging, even for complex applications that require scripts and advanced configuration. And beyond packaging, it introduces smart icons that are context and event aware. For example, users can be automatically directed to a local application when they're in the office and seamlessly switch to a web version when they're working remotely. Or they can get a Windows or Mac app depending on the device they're logged into, all from the same smart icon. The upcoming demo walks through several examples to see how these features work. And be sure to check out recastsoftware.com for more details on Recast Application Workspace. Let's jump into the Application Workspace to take a look. Here we are in the web browser, logged into the Application Workspace as an administrator. Administrators have the Manage option available at the top of the page. When we first log in, we land on a welcome screen that includes some helpful information, including where to download the client. We'll circle back to that a little later. The first thing we need to do is set up the identity source so we can authenticate our users. To do that, go to Manage, then Identity Sources under Authentication. In my example, the environment is connected to Enter ID. There's also an LDAP option available if we're connecting to Windows Active Directory. Next, let's take a look at connectors. Connectors are what link the Application Workspace to our application stores. If we go to Connectors under Manage, we can see several connectors already installed. The Setup Store in this example is the Recast repository. From here, we can connect to a variety of different stores, including AVD, Citrix, Omnissa, and more. Once we have the connector in place, we can add an application package by going into the connector and selecting Resources. This takes us to a list of applications we can choose from and deploy. There are thousands of open source and commercial applications available. For this example, we're going to install Notepad++. Select the version we want, and then we'll create the package. Since this is a lab, the package will be published to production. In a real environment, we could choose Dev, Test, Acceptance, or production to support full application lifecycle management. The details section shows any available CVE reports. Some applications may have dependencies. If they do, they'll be listed here. We can also add or adjust installation settings by selecting Customize. We don't have to hunt down install options from application documentation. Those options are available in the package. Entitlements defines who gets access to the application package. We can search for users, devices, or groups. This comes from the link directory. No need to set up collections. Once we select a group, we see additional settings. These settings control how users interact with the application and which events can trigger actions. The publish type gives us several options, which adds more flexibility compared to traditional installs. Hidden doesn't rely on user interaction. This could be something like a script that runs after a specific event. Catalog pushes the packages to the catalog. From there, users can get or request access to the application. Workspace publishes the application directly to the user's workspace. If the user removes it from the workspace, it will return to the catalog. Forest pushes the application directly to the workspace, and the user can't remove it. We can also choose which icons get added during installation. Let's select Desktop and Start menu. Notice the Approver option. We're going to require users to request approval for this app, but we'll leave it blank for now since this group isn't the approver. Under Events, we can add actions like uninstalling the app when the user logs out. Let's go back and confirm the settings. Now we'll add a second entitlement. We'll add an account that will approve the application packages. From here, we'll set the same options and also select Approver. With Approver selected, this user must approve the packages before they can get installed. We'll go next to Summary. If everything looks good, we'll select Finish. That takes us to the Package Settings page where we have even more options available. One feature that many software deployment tools don't offer is under the Catalog section. In addition to the package name and description and overview, users can leave reviews for the application, and we can see those here. There's also a media option, and we can add frequently asked questions about the application package. This could help a user choose between multiple similar applications like a text editor or graphics editing software. Now that we've created a package, our users can access it. But before we check that out, let's install the Application Workspace agent on a client. We'll go to a client computer logged in as an end user and open the web version of the Application Workspace. And the first thing we see is the introduction screen. The last option is to download the agent. Let's select that. And we'll go to the Downloads folder and run it. We'll walk through the installation. Elevated rights are required to manually install the agent, like with the bring your own computer scenario. There is a standalone installer package that could be used as part of an automation such as a GPO or published with Intune. That finished, and if we close the web browser, that takes us to the locally installed version of the Application Workspace. Notice this time it doesn't have the option to download the agent. Workspace is where users can interact with applications, and Catalog is where they can see applications available to them. Let's go to Catalog. There are several packages with the option to get. That will add them to the workspace. There are also some that the user has to request. Let's request Notepad++. If we go up to pending approval, we can see the application is waiting for approval. Now, if we go to a second client logged in as that approver we set up on the entitlement, there's a notification next to approvals. We can open that and approve the request. Now, if we go back to the session as the requesting user, and we'll go to Workspace, there's Notepad++. We could launch it through a smart icon, or we could launch it through the Start menu. Now that application package is available. Notice the GIMP package shows a lock symbol on the smart icon. If we right-click on it, the remove option is not available. That's because the entitlement was set to force. Foxit PDF Reader, however, can be removed. And if we remove it, the application is no longer available in the Start menu. And if a user wanted it back, they'd simply go to Catalog and get the application package. We saw how to package applications and how users interact with them. But these aren't just shortcuts. Application Workspace uses smart icons, which are context-aware and can take different actions based on conditions we define. For example, an app might be accessed both in the office and remotely. While they're on the office network, we want users to launch the full desktop app. Outside, however, they're directed to a web version of that application, maybe due to latency or data loss concerns. We'll use Power BI to illustrate this, since it offers both desktop and web apps, the full client on the office network and web apps off network. Let's start by getting the custom Power BI app I created for this demo. Next, notice that if I ping a server inside the network, I get a response. That's the filter or condition I'm using to determine if the computer is inside the network or outside the network. Now, if we open Power BI Desktop, that opens the full desktop app. This demo isn't on using Power BI, so we can just close this. Next, let's imitate this computer being off the network. To do that, I'll simply block outbound ping requests. And now if I try to ping the server, it fails. Okay, so what happens now if we open the Power BI app? We get a message that the company network is not detected, and it will let the user know it's switching to the web app. We'll click OK. And that opens Power BI Web. We could have also used a remote app or a different application. So that's a demonstration of how that smart icon is context aware. It behaves differently depending on the condition. In this example, we emulated if it's inside or outside a corporate network. Let's take a look at the steps taken to make that happen. Here we are at Application Workspace Management. From here, we'll go to Packages. Let's open the Power BI demo package. And from here, we'll go to Actions. Let's first take a look at the install action. These are steps to install Power BI Desktop. But what happens if the user isn't inside the network? We don't want it to install. To see how this works, let's edit the install action and go to Filters. There's a filter that requires the server inside the network to be available. That's an operator or a condition for this install action to take place. If that host is unreachable, this step is skipped. Let's go to Launch, and we'll take a look at the first one. We'll edit the action set. And under Filters, we have that same condition. The host has to be reachable for this action set to take place. Let's take a look at the action. That's the command that starts the Power BI executable, the full desktop application. These are all ran in sequence, so let's take a look at the next one. This filter tests to see if the host is unreachable, indicating the client isn't connected to the Office network. And if we look at Actions, first we have an action that notifies the user. And there's more than just the OK button. If we go to Advanced, we can also place the input into variables if we want to use the response later. Again, these are ran in sequence, so once the user hits OK, the action to open the URL will run. We can let the client use the default browser. We can also force private mode if needed. Or we could specify the browser that's used for this URL. What happens if we set this to a specific browser, but the user doesn't have it installed? We could put an action earlier to check for the install of that browser and install it if it's not there. That's pretty powerful. Speaking of powerful, let's take a look at the actions available. We'll create a new action. There are a lot of actions to choose from. We can mount drives, printers, create and modify directories and files, start processes, run scripts, install apps, set environment variables, reboot, and a lot more. That provides a lot of configuration options beyond simply deploying an application. In advance, we can set the context and how it's ran. We can select device, elevated user, or user context, and choose how we want it to run: normal, hidden, minimized, or maximized. And in filters, we have a lot of items we can filter on. What if we want an application to only run on a specific computer type? We could set a filter that specifies a specific system manufacturer model. We could also provide install instructions for both Windows and Mac, so the user can launch the same application between two different OS types. The combination of actions and filters make the Smart Icons a powerful tool for managing applications in the environment. We can have the same application run multiple ways depending on the context: Mac, Windows, VDI, or Workstation. Managing applications across physical desktops, VDI, and AVD can be difficult, and traditional approaches often add more overhead than value. Baking apps into images works, but it usually means maintaining multiple images for different host pools and user groups, which quickly becomes a burden to maintain. Application Workspace takes a different approach. It allows teams to standardize on fewer images while delivering applications across physical devices, VDI, and remote desktops. Applications are managed for users, not devices, and delivered consistently across multiple platforms. With AVD, App Attach requires MSIX-based packaging, which not every application supports. That often leads to fragmentation, some apps attached, others baked into the image, and a lot of extra work. With Application Workspace, you simply add the agent to the image once and manage all applications across multiple endpoint types from a single platform. Compared to tools like Intune, applications are available on demand and delivered in the right order when that's needed. And many organizations are taking that a step further by using Autopilot to deploy just the Application Workspace agent, giving users near instant access to everything they need. Recast has a case study on that scenario. There's a link below. After spending time with Application Workspace, it's clear how much flexibility it offers. If you're responsible for end-user application management, it's absolutely worth a look. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out Recast software to learn more.